Hey guys, what's up? This is Meathead Mikkel from meatheadgaming.com, and today we're going to be looking at the T6 Fire Fist of Heaven's Crusader, and I will link the other progression videos in the description below, which is just the T4 and the T5. And guys, this is going to be a little bit of a longer video because until I get like absolutely ridiculously good gear, I'm probably not going to revisit Fire Fist of Heavens again. Just because I have some other builds I want to try. But I do have adequate gear to handle T6 fairly well, and in this video I'm going to talk a little bit about the different skill variations and why you would want to use certain skills and certain runes and that sort of thing, or passives, in certain situations. So because this is not like the Fire Fist of Heavens build actually has a decent amount of variability in it. So it's not, you're not limited to one like cookie cutter spec. There is no exactly best way to do it, and that should be evident from me using laws of justice and not laws of valor, and I will talk about that. But anyway, let's go ahead and jump in. We'll do about a quarter of a rift. I already did half of it, and then we will look at the gear, the spec, all that sort of thing. And one of the other things that's kind of making me move away from this build a little bit is the screen shake and the intensity of the graphics. It hides a lot of ground effects, so like molten, frozen, things like that, and it's just really annoying in a group. And hopefully Blizzard gets rid of the screen shake at the very least, if not like kind of tone down the graphics a little bit. But something needs to be done because this is a very annoying build in groups, especially if you have like a couple of these, or you have like a wizard and with additional ground effects, things like that. And it's just, Holy Shotgun in that regard is just so much better, especially if you have his DPS monk. So I'm kind of like I'm almost ready to make the switch to Holy Shotgun, and I will be making a video about that as well. My take on some of the different variations of that build, and I'll also be trying a couple hybrid builds. Let's go ahead. We're not going to use this channeling. I don't know. I still feel like channeling pawns is a little cheesy for videos like this. Not like Conduit, obviously, but it is a little cheesy. So I'm going to stick to the basics. And I will talk about why I'm using certain skills and not others, because I know some of you are already looking at my skill bar going like, why are you doing this and not that? I will explain. Hopefully we can run into an elite pack here. And I do have approximately 1 second of cooldown on my Acrobat's Champion, which is okay. You don't need perfect uptime. Like if you can get it to, I would say even as long as like 3 seconds or so is realistically it's acceptable. Like that's an acceptable cooldown time. We're trying to actually hit an elite pack, another elite pack here before we. So here we go, Goblin. If you don't stack enough fire damage or enough elite damage, which is actually something that I'm struggling with my current gear, it can be a little hard to take down goblins, especially if you're running low on Wrath at that moment in time. So here we go, we'll just finish up this elite right here. This is reflect damage, and this is one of the reasons that I need Iron Skin. And the different variations that I'm going to talk about here in a minute, every single one of those has a trade-off, and you can go, because this is a gear-based game, you can go more offensively as you get better gear. Unfortunately, my gear is like, as you can see, it's T6 viable, but it's still not really optimal. So first I'm going to do actually Paragon points, just to get this out of the way. So T6, I'm going to be using all my points. That is endgame, so yes, I realize the majority of players are not Paragon 600, but I mean, it is endgame. T6 is endgame, so if you're doing T6 at Paragon 200, good for you, but I'm going to be using all my points. So movement speed and wrath first, then I'm actually using vitality instead of strength. Normally I would be going main stat, but again, because my gear is still not optimal, I'm a little low on toughness, and so I kind of need this to hit that like sweet spot of not having to kite too much. And then for offense, I'm going crit chance, crit damage, and then cooldown reduction and attack speed is just a bonus, but this doesn't really matter at all. And then here I'm going for life regen, resist on armor. Arguably, life percentage would be better over life regen. I might make the switch. I'm still kind of debating it, just because my health pool is 400k, so this is still giving me like a decent chunk of my hit points. It's about 2% per second, so that's not bad. So I'm sticking to it for now, but I might make the switch to life percentage. And then here, area damage, resource cost reduction, and life on hit. You probably want to go for resource cost reduction first, followed by area damage, followed by life on hit, and then Gore Fine is just gravy. Now, let's look at the skills. So, Fist of Heavens, Heaven's Tempest, it's the only fire rune. This is the bread and butter of the build. Shield Glare, I'm using Zealous Glare. So this is where things get interesting, because some people like to use Provoke with Charged Up. I don't like Provoke. Here's why. First of all, it's got a longer cooldown. Second, Charged Up, it gives you a little bit of a damage boost, but not significant enough. And as a Wrath generator, Shield Glare, especially if you use the Final Witness like I am, will generate way more Wrath. And all this does is just taunts enemies, but you don't really need that, especially if you're going solo. And in general, I just don't like this skill very much. So I'm using Shield Glare, and I'm going to be using Zealous Glare for the Wrath regen. Once you get more optimal gear, then you can go for Divine Verdict. And especially if you're going for a Holy Shotgun build, where you're not going to be using like that AoE, then yes, Divine Verdict is probably better. But I'm not, so there you go. Now, Iron Skin, Steel Skin. So here's where a lot of people would go for Concentration, Shattered Ground for the Firestarter ticks. The life regen on it doesn't really matter. The damage, I mean, when you combine it with Firestarter, it's actually pretty nice. But the thing that I don't like about Consecration is, this build is very mobile. So a lot of times you leave a stutter step, and it doesn't follow you. Like if you casted this and this was something that followed you around as you move, this would be awesome. Hands down, would use it every single time. Kind of a best in slot skill, but it's not. It doesn't follow you, so I don't really like it, just because from a mobility standpoint, especially in group play, a lot of times, I talked about this in other videos, but optimized T6 group play is all about burst damage, and that's why even like this build that I'm showing you guys today is not really ideal for group play, because it has a wind-up time, and that is going to end up slowing down the group once you hit a certain DPS threshold. So for that reason, I don't really like Consecration, and also because my gear's not optimal, my toughness is a little low, I choose to go with Iron Skin and then Steel Skin, because I'm able to rotate this with Laws of Justice, Immovable Object, and basically sit there and just face tank everything. And so you may be asking, well, why don't you just kite? Well, that's because I'm using Dark Light, and the whole point of this weapon is that you're casting Heaven's Fury right on top of yourself. So you don't want to be like, if you have a monster all the way over here, you don't want to be doing this. You don't want this, because this right here is pointless. If your monster's over here, then you want to be over here in their face doing this. So you're doubling up. So you have all these bullets going everywhere. But in order to be in melee range, you have to have a certain amount of toughness, and that's where things like Iron Skin come in, and rotating Iron Skin with Laws of Justice, Immovable Object. Again, if you had like absolute best in slot gear, Laws of Valor with critical is better, but it's only for the crit damage increase. The attack speed on Laws of Valor doesn't really, I mean, it helps you a little bit, but you're already attacking so fast that you just don't need this additional attack speed. It's kind of wasted. You're already going to be doing enough damage. So just, in terms of, you're going to be getting enough Fist of Heavens casts out that you don't really need this additional attack speed. What you really care about is the crit damage. And in that regard, I prefer Laws of Justice, because you get that permanent 140 all resist. which is basically 2 diamonds worth, and then you also have the 7,000 armor, which is absolutely awesome. So that's why I'm using these, and as you'll see, like it allows me to get in the face of packs. It allows me to play kind of sloppy too. This is, guys, this spec right here it's kind of more of like a casual spec, because you don't have to be like, you don't have to play super twitchy. Like, I'm not saying you can be a total noob and do this, but you don't have to be like, you don't have to be a pro to run with this build, especially if you're going with shield glare, with an AoE blind and iron skin, steel skin, and laws of justice. And once you get your rotations down, and that's just going to come with practice, nothing is really going to kill you. And then obviously Akarat's fire starter is going to be our Akarat's champion rune. Now Passos Fervor, this is a no-brainer. Holy Cause, also a no-brainer, just flat DPS increase. Finery, flat DPS and toughness increase, about 1,000 strength. Now here's where things get interesting. So again, with better gear, I would probably go with Long Arm of the Law. And if I had like absolutely best in slot gear, I'd go with Long Arm of the Law, and then I would go for Laws of Valor critical, and just put out ridiculous amounts of damage. But there are a couple reasons why I'm using Indestructible instead. So first and foremost, again, it kind of promotes somewhat of a sloppy gameplay. So if things go bad, or I lag out or something, I don't have to worry about losing my pool stacks. And like if I get trapped or something, I mean, you don't have to really worry about crowd control, because Akarat's champion and steel and iron skin make you immune to crowd control. But you do kind of need to worry about like lag spikes, and just if you like to play sloppy. Like when I'm using Indestructible and these, and Iron Skin and Laws of Justice, when I'm playing in group, and I'll probably make a video about this later, just show you guys some group play, I'm not discriminate whatsoever, and like I don't stay away from packs. I run in the middle of everything and just start spamming stuff. And that's a fun way to play, in my opinion. And then when this procs, then I have to kind of back off for the next 60 seconds and play a little bit more carefully. So that's why I use Indestructible. You could make a case for Wrathful. Unfortunately, unless you have about 100,000 health glow bonus, or health glow bonus is a secondary roll on 4 of your items, Wrathful is not really as good. And you could make the argument that Indestructible is better just hands down anyway, because if you're going to die, you get 5 seconds of immunity and a huge damage boost. So why would you use Wrathful in a situation like that? This is a little bit better for the shotgun build, in my opinion. So really, there's really nothing to use here, in my opinion, other than Long Arm of the Law if you want to go offensive, or if you want to go defensive, then just use Indestructible. That's that. Now, these are my stats. So crit chance is just above 50%, and then 470 crit damage. Pretty good armor. Resist, especially my physical resist, very, very low. This is something I need to change, and my arcane is pretty low. Again, I don't have optimal gear, but that's something that I definitely need to work on. And then max life, not too high. Life per second is okay. I'm using a Templar. And then health club healing bonus I only have on 1 item. And my Wrath regen's not that great, but I don't really need it, because the 6-piece Akarat's champion reduces the resource costs by 50% anyway. Now let's look at gear. So this is where things get a little bit interesting. I am using a Ring of Royal Grandeur with cooldown reduction on it. I eventually, at some point, I will maybe get crit chance or crit damage on it. I need basically to optimize my cooldown reduction on like 2 or 3 pieces where it's not a perfect roll, which will allow me to then get rid of cooldown reduction on 1 other piece, and then do something like percent fire damage, or a crit chance, or a crit damage. That is really what's going to make this build a lot faster. But I am using a Ring of Royal Grandeur. This does have potential to be trifecta. I just don't need it. I just don't need the trifecta part of it at this point. And then Dark Light, again, if I had a better Dark Light, I would much rather have cooldown reduction here instead of Vitality, but I don't. Sad face. My Sabatons of Akan, these are pretty good, so I'd rather have something else as a secondary, so I could have all resist on here, but beyond that, it's a pretty decent roll. And then Final Witness, there are a lot of shields you can use here, guys. But I really like Final Witness, because again, it kind of promotes like a more casual playstyle, where I don't have to aim in a certain direction. I just run into the middle of a pack, no matter what's going on, boom, pop it, and then this huge 30-yard AoE basically tops me off on Wrath and blinds everything. And the cooldown on it, if you count to 4 seconds, I have maybe like two, maybe 3 seconds of downtime before I can cast it again. So in any elite battle, I can usually blind him at least twice, and that's huge. That's absolutely huge for crowd control. So the final witness right there. This is probably kind of ideal rolls on a shield like this. The block chance is nice because you will be in melee range. I mean, maybe you could go for like Vitality or something here. I don't know, maybe Wrath Regeneration, I'm not sure, but I think block chance is actually pretty good on here. And then I am using a Fire SOJ, but again, it's not the best. It's 2 points off from elite damage, 5 points off. This is like a very, very low fire skill damage roll. So not ideal. Life after kill doesn't really help me out too much. So I do need to optimize this gear further. I am using Reaper's Wraps. So you could go for, another option is to go for Awe Guilds when you're doing this, if you want to give up Reaper's Wraps. I still like them too much, plus I would rather go for Mage Fists, because it rolls 5 primaries instead of 4. So I don't think Awe Guilds is really going to work for me here. And then I am using, for now, I'm using Captain's Belt and Captain's Pants for the 3-piece bonus. The resource cost reduction is nice. The life regen and the all resist, they're okay, but really it's the cooldown reduction that you want, because right now I'm sitting at 54.93% cooldown reduction, so my Akarat's champion has about 1 second of downtime. Now, this is where things are like suboptimal. So my gloves, they only rolled 6 cooldown reduction. I need at least 2. I need the other 2, to make this optimal. My chest has life regen on it, which is absolutely worthless. So here we go. 1 second, about 1 second of downtime. But anyway, so this is, I need a better Icon chest, and I actually do have one, but it's more for a holy build. So this, if I had either like the high armor roll, the 500 armor, or reduced damage from elites, or all resist on here, then I'd be a lot better off. Shoulders, these are actually really nice. For this build, these are really nice because you got your strength, vit, all resist, cooldown, perfect cooldown reduction. Pickup radius is okay, it doesn't really matter that much, but the health glow bonus is also very nice. So these are pretty much ideal shoulders. The helm, once I got some better gear, I would like to have Fist of Heaven's damage here instead of Vitality. But this is pretty good anyway, and this is better than the one I had before, which I showed, I believe, in the T5 video. And then amulets. So here's where things are a little, kind of iffy. So I found this Maris, and the perfect cooldown reduction, very good crit chance, very high strength, and I rerolled the crit damage on it. And it makes fights like Gom, and then the Tickler dude, and some of the other poison mobs in the game trivial, obviously, because they don't deal any damage to you. So an amulet like this doesn't have to be Maris, but and arguably like counts as Julius is a very good one. The Lightning one is very good as well. But basically your best in slot here is going to be an amulet that has a legendary proc that basically negates a certain type of damage. And poison's a good way to go. You can argue, whether 20% fire damage or 8% cooldown reduction is better. I would say you need to get, at most 3 seconds of downtime on Akarat's champion. Anything more than that, and it's just too much downtime, so you might have to just suck it up and give up this fire damage. And that's evident because, you can see my fire damage is only increased by 35%. And my Fist of Heaven's damage is at 15 or 30%, and then my elite damage is only at 28%. So really my elite damage is approximately like 100% boost over my base damage. So I could definitely optimize this gear a lot more than I have at this point, and that's also why I'm running Laws of Justice and things like that, because my toughness is only 9.8 mil, and then when I pop it, it jumps up to 17, which does let me tank most things. So anyway, guys, that's the gear. I hope there are a lot of variations again, but I think I hope that explains it to you guys. And another skill that some people use, which I don't agree with, is Falling Sword with Superheated. So it's it's very nice damage. The cooldown introduction on it's going to be approximately 15 seconds, so you will have it available for every elite. But I have played around with it, and it's nice. But if you miss it, like if you shield glare, and like you have to give up something here. So if you shield glare and you use it, then you could do some pretty decent damage if you have like high fire damage stack. But if you don't, like if you're not giving up one of these and you don't have shield glare, then a lot of times you will miss on this, and then it's just completely wasted. So it's nice because it gives you immunity, but it's kind of wasted, and arguably you might as well just go for like a fire bombardment rune. But anyway, those are kind of like off variations that aren't super important at this point, so let's just go ahead and finish off this rift. And I will be making a follower gearing video shortly. I know you guys have been asking about that a lot, but just real briefly I will go over these items super quick. The main thing here for a follower, and I don't have the optimal shield, but really you just want maximum Thunder Fury procs for the crowd control, and then your S of Johann for the pull. And then you are going to be using a Templar if you're going solo for the Wrath regeneration. Once you get best in slot gear, I'd say the Scoundrel might be a little bit better, but that's also debatable. Alright, so here we go. Here's a double elite pack. And that's what I'm talking about. When I rotate these skills, I can sit here and I can take this damage. In absolute worst case scenario, I die, and then I just have to play kind of safe for the next 60 seconds. But in my opinion, I don't really need Consecration, because once I optimize this gear, Consecration, it also has like a certain cast time, and I think that time is going to be wasted once this gear is optimized, because that's another like couple, Heaven's Fury, or not Heaven's Fury, Fist of Heavens procs that you could be getting off, that you're not, because you're casting Consecration, which is not, it'll tick better, it'll proc some Firestarter ticks, but I don't know. It's kind of like potato. I guess you could do it, but it's just not the best in my opinion. So anyway, on Rift Guardian, guys, Furnace, T6 Rift Guardian, gotta do it. Just don't have a Furnace. I'm sorry, it's gonna take you longer, but you really should have one. You should get one. Try to get one, because this will make the fight go a lot quicker once it actually procs. So there's a proc. Let's see if we get another one. There's a proc. Otherwise, it's going to take you forever and a day to actually get the hit points down. And if you're going for a Holy Shotgun build, you're actually going to be a lot better off, because you're not going to need to. You'll still be able to use your shield. I can't use my shield here, so I can't use Shield Glare. And my toughness drops a little bit. But without, and I hope this doesn't I hope you guys don't think this is like cheesy, because that's just how it is. The quickest way to take down a T6 Rift Guardian, and for anyone who does Malthael runs, is with a Furnace. Otherwise, I could sit here for the next 3 to 4 minutes, and just wail at them, and it'll be fine. But then I think you guys would get kind of bored just watching me wail on a Rift Guardian for a couple minutes, because again, I don't have the optimal gear. So anyway, guys, I know this video was a little bit longer, but that's kind of how I feel about the Fire Crusader at this point, and I will be trying out some different variations. Hopefully Heaven's Fury gets a fire rune, because that would make some kind of hybrid build with Fate of the Fell and Hellskull very viable, kind of as an alternative to just this crazy Fist of Heaven spam. And just to give you guys a preview of some things I'm going to be working on, so we'll be doing a shotgun build, but I'm also going to be doing a hybrid, probably Holy Fist of Heavens plus Heaven's Fury Ascendancy build, because I do have another con chest, which I'm actually not going to touch for the time being, because depending on if builds change, I may reroll that monster XP to melee damage reduction or the vitality to perfect. And I also have what has to be one of the best Holy Crusader Stone of Jordans in the game. Just this thing is beast, and so that's kind of what I'm going to be working on. And I have an okay Fate of the Fel, so that's something that's going to be coming up. So anyway, guys, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thumbs up if you like the video, sub if you haven't. Be on the lookout for more kind of hybrid Crusader videos, and I will be doing a shotgun video again, like I said, soon. So I'll see you guys soon.